All right, guys, welcome, welcome back to our coverage of Swarm Part 2. Um, so we're gonna talk about episodes 5, 6, and 7, which were very interesting. We saw more about Dre's backstory from her childhood to with her
Hmm.
adoptive parents. We saw Dre from a different perspective, which came from episode 6. We heard more about the
That
things that
episode
Dre.
was trippy.
It was. We heard more about things that Dre had been doing that were not represented on screen. Like we found out she had been raiding people that we didn't even see.
Yeah, it was, how best to put it? It was like a true crime series, as
Yeah.
you described earlier. And I just thought it was a really interesting episode. It had honestly really reminded me of Donald Glover's previous show, Atlanta, of how there are just certain episodes of Atlanta that just totally steer away from like the main story of characters. That it's just literally side quest, as I would like to refer to those kinds of episodes of Atlanta. That it's like just absolutely nothing to do with Ernest and Paperboy and Darius. That like I'm sure like you remember some of like those wacky side episodes, like the reparations episode and like that one episode with like the extremely white passing like biracial boy, and then Kevin Samuels was in that episode.
No.
But yeah, like that the Swarm episode 6, the true crime series, it had really like reminded me of that because we get to see like the show in a different perspective. It's a true crime series, and there's this she she was a private investigator or a news
She was a
reporter.
detective. Detective.
She was a detective,
Loretta
okay,
Loretta Green.
and she's investigating Andrea Green's murders. But what makes this episode so interesting is that Dre isn't played by Dominique Fishback in this episode. That Dre and Marissa have like completely different faces. You have something
Yes.
to say?
Basically, it was a mockumentary. It was like a documentary. Basically, it made it seem as though the show Swarm was supposed to be a dramatic retelling of a true story. And this episode was supposed to be a documentary of that true story. Because even in that episode, there was like an interview
Hmm.
with Donald Glover himself talking about how he was going to make this show.
That
And
like that he's working with Amazon Prime Video like to make this like Andrea Green like biopic series like about her string of murders, that he's working with Damson Idris, Chloe Bailey, and Dominique Fishback.
yeah, so this episode was just I really enjoyed it. I know people didn't like it because it seemed though it took away from the main plot, but like no, it actually was the plot. Because even in the next episode, they talked about her running on stage at the Ninja concert. They talked about like the whole plot of the next episode within episode 6,
Hmm.
which goes to show that Dre really is an unreliable narrator because half things she does we don't see, and the
And it
things that
also
we do
plays in.
see,
Oh, I'm sorry. You can finish. I'm so
the
sorry.
things we do see is just like hallucinations. Like in episode 7, if you've seen the ending, you know that she made it on stage and like Nija was like, "Come with me," But
Hmm.
from what the detective tells us in episode 6, she got arrested.
Right.
So
That it literally it said that like a Niger fan runs on the stage and she's arrested, which we
mhm,
would obviously assume that that's Dre.
yeah,
And then to your point that in the last episode when we see Dominique Fishback's version of Dre leave with Nija in a limo, like just like cuddled comfortably on her lap, I just think it's also very like symbolistic and feeds into how delusional Dre is. Like that's how it ended in her perspective, but of course in reality she was in the back of a cop car.
yeah, yes, for sure. And
It's oh, you first.
I really love episode 6. Like it just provides us the truth because
Right.
all we've seen is Dre's delusions. So yeah, you go ahead, friend.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so with the true crime episode, I think it's so interesting because, to your point, it's pretty much a show within a show. Like the true crime episode, it's pretty much supposed to represent like the real world of Swarm, but like but Swarm, the show that we are watching, me and you as the audience, it's like it's like to your point that like a show. Oh my god, how do I even explain this? It's so complicated. Like a show within a show. It's like within the real world of the Swarm universe that they are like telling like something as if it was a true story that happened in their universe. And aside from that, I think it's also really like poking fun of Hollywood that they're just have this like weird fascination with like giving serial killers like their own like biopic series, like most recently Jeffrey Dahmer. And I know that like Zach Efron played Ted Bundy some time
Yeah,
back. It's just a weird string. And I know
Ross
that
Lynch too.
Ross Lynch was also a real life serial killer whose name that I don't remember.
It,
And they
it was
oh and it
Dahmer. He played Dahmer too.
oh so Ross Lynch also played Jeffrey Dahmer.
He played Jeffrey Dahmer as
Oh,
a teenager, and
that's
Evan Peters played him
confusing.
as an adult.
And Jeffrey Dahmer, that's. Would you like to talk about that in this episode to kind of see how it overlaps, or do you want to say that for a different episode?
What? Talk about Jeffrey Dahmer?
Yeah.
Okay. Basically, as someone who is also into true crime, and I've seen my fair share of biopics, some of them are really good and respectful towards the victims and the victims' families, and some of them are not. Like basically, the movie with Ross Lynch as Jeffrey Dahmer was based on a comic written by one of Jeffrey Dahmer's friends from high school, which was called My Friend
Interesting.
Dahmer. So that was Ross Lynch's portrayals as a teenage Jeffrey Dahmer in high school before his murder spree. I haven't seen the whole movie, so I don't know how it ended. But yes, that was the premise of the movie. But the
That's
thing with
definitely something.
yeah, and I like the most recent true crime biopic I watched was The Staircase, which is on HBO Max, which was so good. It was good. Now, anywho, the thing about Evan Peters' portrayal of Jeffrey Dahmer is I watched the show. I got to like episode 4, I believe, but um, I've read Jeffrey Dahmer's case up and down, listened to like numerous videos and podcasts about it. And when I saw that he was actually like portraying the actual deaths of his victims, it was like, whoa, that's kind of crazy. Like to have someone's actual murder being reenacted on screen is kind of insane. And it makes perfect sense to me why Evan Peters had to get therapy after like all his roles because what's his name? Dang it, hold on,
It's okay.
because
Take your time.
I'm literally
One
drawing a
you're referring to one of the victims.
no, referring to the Ri- Ryan Murphy. Basically, Ryan Murphy, who is the creator of shows like Glee, American Horror Story, Scream Queens, The Jeffrey Dahmer Show,
Hmm.
Pose. His discography is very vast. He also made The Watcher, 911, all those shows. Anywho,
The one with
um,
Angela Bassett, right?
yeah. Um, he constantly is having Evan Peters play this role of a murderer. Even from like season 1 of American Horror Story, he was playing Tate.
I was about to say he was a wasn't he a school shooter in that one?
Yeah, he was a school shooter who shot up a school. And then he just like continuously plays roles where he's a murderer when he is working with Ryan Murphy, which makes sense why he had to go to therapy for that show. I'm sure he had to go to therapy for Dahmer too. That's like an intense role. You are in the shoes of Jeffrey Dahmer, and you are reenacting these murders. which is
And
crazy to me.
Jeffrey Dahmer, he wasn't just an ordinary school shooter. Like, he had mostly targeted like young black and brown boys. Like, I
Hmm.
heard like one of his youngest victims was like a 12-year-old black boy.
I think he was 14 and like
You're probably right, but
Filipino
still
or
not far off
something.
one another.
I don't know, but it was a very young boy, a child. And
Yeah.
actually, the crazy thing about that part was the child was able to escape. Right? He had been like chained up and abused and stuff, but he was able to get out. Right? But he was like
Hmm.
delirious because he had been drugged. But he was able to run out of the apartment where Dahmer was torturing him, and he saw the police were there. So he like ran to the police and he tried to get the police. He tried to tell the police his story, get him take him away. But then Dahmer came out and he was like, "Oh no, we're just doing gay stuff." And the police were like, "Well, it's
You
out of our
said you
hands."
said gay stuff.
Yeah, he was like, "We're just doing gay stuff," and the police
Mm.
were like, "Well, out of our hands." At the time,
I thought you
what is
said
it?
I thought you said I thought you said date stuff like
No,
DATE date stuff. My bad.
no, gay stuff. And at the time, the era where this was happening, people were incredibly homophobic. So if the police didn't have to deal with anything gay, they were like, "Well,
Yeah,
it's
they
just
were
two
probably
queers.
just like whatever at the time. It's like, he's like, okay, carry on.
It's just two queers." Oh, speaking of the 14-year-old boy, actually, Dahmer had raped his brother too before he killed the boy. It was like an incident. I don't know if it was a year before or a couple months before, but yes, he was involved with the boy's brother. But the boy needed a job.
Oh, this was
Needed a
the
job.
boy's brother. I thought you said Jeffrey Dahmer, like he raped his own brother, so he was an
No, no,
incest
no, no,
kid.
no. So he didn't have any siblings. Oh no, he did have a sibling. He had one sibling. Okay, anywho,
But
um,
continue.
he he assaulted the boy's brother, right?
Hmm.
But a couple months later, the boy needed like a job and some money and stuff, so he decided to work for Dahmer, and then
Right.
obviously Dahmer killed him, which is messed up.
Mm.
Also, the police who allowed the boy to go back in the apartment with Jeffrey Dahmer are still in the service.
Oh, of course.
They have a Twitter account. They have like Facebook accounts. One of them was like a chief or something. I don't know,
Did
but
they
it's
have much of a
disgusting.
reaction? Did they have a reaction per se to this reenaction from the Netflix series?
I don't know. I didn't see anything. I mean, they haven't like been on their social medias in like years, so
Because
I don't
it's
know.
one thing we know for sure. Because to your point that like the Jeffrey Dahmer series like had not gotten the consent from the victims' families, which is
Hmm.
just baffling and disgusting. And we know that like a lot of those families like sued in Netflix, and I just kind of wonder, did those two cops do the same thing by any chance, or they don't care? I don't know.
I don't know. But even if they did sue Netflix, what are you gonna do about it? You've been
Right,
exposed, boo boo. Mind you,
right.
I don't understand how they even let him go back in the apartment with that man. This boy looks like a boy. He's like a child.
How old was excuse me? How old was Jeffrey Dahmer at the time? It was maybe in his 30s.
Maybe like late 20s, early 30s. I don't know. Hold on. Let me look on the iPad.
Take your time.
Oh, so he was like 20 something. But he looked older than the boy. The boy was obviously a minor. So, I don't know. Those cops deserve something. They deserve something for sure. Anywho, yes, the mockumentary, I mean, not documentary, true crime documentaries and biopics are a very prevalent, popular topic in this day and age. And I really think it, the, like, they've always been made, but I think they really became popular for the majority of the public after Tiger King came out. I think that's when people were like, "Oh crap, we love these," and they started pushing them out like crazy. Because I'm pretty sure
No,
that,
I can definitely see that.
yeah, I'm pretty sure they're making another one about the killer clown. Um,
You're talking about the clown that will go to kids' birthday parties and like lure them in and kill them, right? I think it was like in the 70s.
John Wayne Gacy
Yeah.
in Chicago. He killed 33 young men and boys in
Mm.
Chicago.
Um, no, sorry. I'm listening to you. I was just in this really deep thoughts for a second. Hasn't Monster been renewed for season two? That they're trying to make us some sort of serial killer anthology series that like the
Yeah,
second season isn't gonna focus on Jeffrey Dahmer. It's gonna be like a
I think
new
it's gonna be the Killer
thing.
Clown or somebody else.
You're probably right.
Yeah, I think it'll be John Wayne Gacy. I don't know. I mean, listen, the thought of a serial killer anthology would sound exciting if if it was approved by victims' family members.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. It's just I'm just not down with it personally because, aside from like romanticizing and sexualizing serial killers, which let's actually get into that
Oh
first.
God,
Like,
we need to get into that because just because this man is played by Evan Peters does not mean you can make sexy edits about him. Evan Peters has a plethora of other characters.
that's
A
what I'm saying.
plethora.
Like you could have made edits of like Quicksilver, but you decide to make like these like thirst trap edits of Jeffrey Dahmer.
Like it's weird. And people are like, oh, well, they shouldn't cast attractive men as serial killers. Well, that's not true because half of these serial killers were attractive men. Objectively, obviously, I'm not attracted to these men, but
Yeah, I know exactly
that's how they
what
got
you
their
mean. That like people have this common misconception that all serial killers are just like
ugly.
ugly rat looking dudes, but like they could look like some of the most like Prince Charming dudes with like a crap ton of money.
Yeah, or they can be bro, but be hot, like Richard Ramirez. Like, oh
Right,
God, the amount of like sex mail that man got in jail. Ew, something is wrong with y'all. Something
right.
is seriously wrong with you
Like, have you
people.
ever seen American Psycho with Christian Bale?
Yeah,
That's a prime example. Like, he was a really like wealthy like corporate Wall Street guy, like charming, handsome dude. Then he was a psychopath.
Mhm. So the problem isn't casting attractive men to play these serial killers. The problem is y'all girlies get your panties in a twist. Like,
No, because I was really trying to contain myself, like, from lashing out, from like, I remember like in my speech class that there was these group of white girls that were like speaking, like, aside from sexualizing Evan Peters as Jeffrey Dahmer, they weren't just admiring him or glorifying him in some way because that he's being himself, and it's just like it really makes you wonder, friend. It's like, why do people love like serial killers like Jeffrey Dahmer? And I had came to the conclusion maybe it's because in some sick way they see themselves in Jeffrey Dahmer. Like they want to do like these things that will be perceived as like terrible and evil, but of course they're not brave enough to do that. So it's like when they see Jeffrey Dahmer doing it like on screen through Evan Peters, it kind of fulfills this sick fantasy.
yeah, there was a lot of TikTok videos about like people relating to Jeffrey Dahmer based off of the biopic. It's like, what are you relating to? What's relatable?
Right.
Do you want to chop off somebody's penis and turn them into zombies? Is that what you want to do? Do you want to stick their head in the freezer? Is that your MO? Like, what are you relating to exactly? What's relatable here? What's relatable?
Yeah. Um.
They need them. The mental hospital socks real quick, really
Why?
fast, like immediately. Anywho, oh my god, we are so off topic. It's
We are, but
crazy.
I think it's honestly. I mean, I think it could technically like kind of overlap with with Swarm since Dre is a serial killer. But I feel like the main distinctive difference between Dre and like Jeffrey Dahmer, for example, I feel like I'm also not down with like making these biopic series about killers like Ted Bundy or Jeffrey Dahmer because I feel like they are profiting off of like the victims' families, like having to like relive the recreations of these traumas. Like to your point, friend, I think it would much be better off as a documentary. Like, why would you want to recreate something like that? Like, you gotta be a little sick in the head.
Yeah, no, the recreations were very detailed. Like as I
Right.
said, I've read Jeffrey Dahmer's case before, and it was like, wait a minute, this is
And then,
actually what
I'm
happened.
sorry.
This is
Yeah,
actually
I
what
was just
happened, like down to a T, basically.
I
So
was
it's
gonna,
like,
but as I was saying, comparing Jeffrey Dahmer to a fictional character like Andrea Green, it's like that's the main difference between the two. Andrea
they're
Green
fictional.
is a fictional character, and they're not profiting off of anything like truly based in real life. Now, yes, Janine Neighbors and Donald Glover had taken inspiration from real world cases, but of course they're not going to like directly reference that. If that makes sense, like they kind of put their own little spin on it,
Hmm. For
and
sure, yeah.
um. And I feel when you make these series about Jeffrey Dahmer, for example, it's like and I feel, I mean, I'm gonna say it. Most of the people that were glorifying this show were just a bunch of white people mostly. Like, I really didn't see too
Hmm.
many black and brown people tuning in, like to see like these young black and brown boys like get killed and eaten by this psychopathic man.
I tuned in because I was excited initially because the concept of it was like, whoa, you know, true crime,
Mm-hmm.
like you're like biopic type thing. Like it was gonna be a fictional like recreation. But like once I saw how realistic it was to the actual cases, it was like, whoa, this is kind of crazy
And
and
building
like
off. Oh,
very
sorry,
sick.
finish.
It was very sick in a way because like wow,
And building
it was
off of
wild.
what I said, if Jeffrey Dahmer was killing anything else aside from black and brown boys, like imagine if he was preying on little white girls or little white boys, they would not like, tune in and like hype up this Jeffrey Dahmer show like they are now. Mark my words.
Well, they would
You think
because Ted
so?
Bundy was yes, Ted Bundy was killing white women.
True.
John Wayne Gacy was killing white little boys.
Yeah, you're not wrong about
Um,
that.
yeah. No, they definitely would. Just the
Mm.
same thing with like the guy who made that murder hotel. Like true crime is always going to be an interesting topic, regardless of the race of the victims or the race of the perpetrator. Well, actually, the race of the perpetrator does matter, but and the whiter cases are more sensationalized. Oh, this white man's killing these black boys. Well, you don't care about the black boys being killed. You care about the
Yeah,
white man
that
killing.
was pretty much what I was trying to get at, to be honest, because it's like, when these black and brown families like are speaking out against Netflix not getting their consent, of course no one cares. They just want to be entertained.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Um, it's definitely a problem. It's a big problem. Um,
And
like the
I'm sorry, friend, I just need to get it off my chest. But like, and it's like I don't think there's anything wrong with like serial killers and slashers in movies. We've seen it ever since like Michael Myers, like what Halloween all the way back in like 1978. But like I said before, those characters are fictional, so I don't feel it's appropriate to like paint Jeffrey Dahmer in this picture that he's an entertainment horror slasher like Freddy Krueger or Michael Myers or any of those sorts.
mhm.
But
Yeah, and
continue.
the way they were trying to the show came across as trying to understand Jeffrey Dahmer's past and like how he got to that point, which I wanted to be a criminal psychologist so I could understand, criminals psychology, how they got to that point, why they were murdering and stuff. But to see that portrayed on screen, people like for some reason the white people were feeling sympathetic towards him But like, I don't understand how you can feel sympathetic towards this man when you're literally seeing him murder people on your screen.
That was also another really big gripe that I have with the show being a biopic series. It's like, why are you trying to make us sympathize with Jeffrey? It just doesn't make sense. Like, they're really trying to Hollywood him into like a movie slasher.
Mhm. Yeah, like I don't. The issue isn't true crime itself, because true crime is always going to be an interesting subject to our society. It has been ever since we could pay to see people get executed. They
Right.
were like in the square in like 1663, watching Mister John get hanged or watching the witches get burned. So
Or
people are
like
always going to
the
be fascinated
slaves in
by
the South
death.
get lynched or whatever.
People are always going to be fascinated by death. People are going to be fascinated by true crime and murders, like the Lizzie Borden case. People are going to be fascinated by it. But there has to be a line in the sand between your fascination and your entertainment, because these people did not die for your entertainment.
I think it's also weird to be fascinated within itself, if you ask me. I think there should be a thin line of like being interested in these true crime documentaries for simply education purposes. But to say you're Jeffrey, to say yeah, but to say that you're fascinated by Jeffrey Dahmer, side eye.
Yes. I don't know. Fascinated is very, it's a weird word. But it is interesting. But to say that you're fascinated means that you are in some way entertained.
Yeah,
It
but
is an interesting case.
let's get back to Swarm though. Okay, so with the last episode, it was definitely wasn't I was expecting because there's quite a little bit of a time jump that Dre has completely changed her. I guess her appearance. That like she's a stud now. She meets a girl.
Mhm.
I don't remember the girl's name. I just remember she was played by Kiersey Clemens from Dope.
Oh, I know her from Austin Alley.
Yeah,
She was the one who breath stank.
dang. And
Oh
you know,
man.
Dre ends up
Her name's
killing.
Rashida.
Huh?
Rashida. Rashida.
Rashida. That was her name.
Rashida. Yeah,
Rashida.
her
Okay.
name's Rashida.
So Dre ends up killing Rashida because
Dre gets them tickets to go see Nija
right.
as like a surprise. But from the beginning of their relationship, Rashida was like, I don't like Nija. Like Dre was like, who's your favorite artist? Rashida said somebody completely different, and Dre was like, what about Nija? She's like, I don't really like her. She's not my fave.
And
And now like we've been together. I go meet your parents, right? And now you surprise me with these tickets. First of all, you couldn't even pay your rent. You surprise me with these tickets to this artist that I don't want to see. So they have like a whole huge argument. She calls her selfish, and the argument is basically a parallel to the argument that
well,
she had with
Marissa.
Marissa. Like it's yeah, it was very much so like similar. You could see the similarities between those two arguments. And then she kills Rashida and burns her body, which was crazy. But in the process of her burning her body, she burnt the tickets, which like girly pop, please
And then that's when she had
do
to
your due
go to
diligence.
like a shady dude like in the parking lot like to get free Niger tickets, but of course she killed him and she
And then
snuck
she
in.
stabbed him, and she stabbed like that's crazy.
I was also
You didn't have to stab.
friend, I was kind of thinking about again like how this can overlap. Did Drake kill Marissa? And we were mentioning before that Drake clearly has a fascination with Marissa. And who knows if it could have been romantic because, as I just said in the last episode, that, Dre is a stud now. And it's like, did she always like girls? I guess we'll never truly know that. But like, where I'm going with this is that, like, I think that could also maybe like put some connection that maybe she had romantic, like, obsessive feelings for Marissa. And that's why, like,
Um,
no one else could have her but Dre.
I don't know if just because she likes girls means that she was fascinated with Marissa in a romantic way. She could be bisexual or she could be,
True.
lesbian, but I don't think that necessarily means that she has to be interested in Marissa romantically. I don't think so. I mean, she could have been. Not to say that it's not a possibility,
Yeah.
but I don't think that should be like a reason for that.
I think it's also interesting because you said that like Dre's argument with Rashida was very similar to her last encounter with Marissa before she had met her demise. And it also kind of makes you wonder, going back to the aspect that Dre's a very unreliable narrator. Now, like I said, I don't 100% believe that Dre killed Marissa, but if there is some possibility, considering that Dre is an unreliable narrator, like, do you think that Dre might have killed Marissa after, just multiple times just trying to stick it to Dre's brain that, like, she doesn't care, for Nija as she used to when they were both kids?
No, I don't think Drake killed Marissa at all. I think Marissa died of drug overdose.
Hmm. Yeah, it seems likely. But let's talk about the ending, though. So it shows when Dre meets Nija, it's Chloe Bailey. It's Chloe Bailey.
Like her, it's not necessarily Chloe Bailey. Like you know that app everybody was using, you could like put your face on a
It,
celebrity's
it it was
face
like a deep
on like a
fake.
like a GIF. It was like that. Yeah, it was like a deep fake. Like her, Chloe's face was superimposed onto Nisha's, which once again goes to show that she's an unreliable narrator again. Oh, and remember in episode 6, when people were talking, when people were doing interviews and they were talking about the artist that Dre liked, like every time they said her name, it was like beep, like censored,
Hmm?
which is interesting, which was an interesting detail. And yeah, like so security like chops stops her on the stage, and then Naja was like, "No, you can sing," which like would never happen in real
Right.
life, which just shows the final stage of like her being Delulu. Like girly pop, that didn't happen. That did not happen. You're Delulu and you're an unreliable narrator. And season 6 really, I think season 6 really opened everyone's eyes to how delusional and how unreliable Dre is, because in season 6 we see, like I said, the last episode, we see the truth of what's really happening around her. But yeah, like she like, and then at the end she's like resting her head
Right.
on Aja's shoulder as they like pull off in a limo. That didn't happen, boo boo. And the show ends. The show ends.
Honestly, like a lot of people didn't like the way the show ended, but I honestly love that it was
I
left
did.
up to interpretation. Like it just perfectly matches with the weirdness we've already seen. And it's like if there was a true ending, we saw Dre got arrested, that would have been way too predictable. But to end it in a way that, in a perspective that, just pretty much reinforces that she's delusional, it adds a lot more possibility.
Yeah, I mean, we do know the true ending based on episode 6. The cop, Loretta Green, says Dre is in jail after running up on stage and that she's going to go see
Hmm.
her to interview her. So we know where Dre is. But the Dre that we see in the show is delusional. So she makes up this whimsical ending for herself. But we know the reality, which is why I love that they had episode 6 before episode 7. I love that they had the true crime documentary before the final episode, because it shows such a contrast within reality and her final stage of delusions. And I love that. Like
Right.
that, I really like how that was. So if people say, "Oh, well, it wasn't realistic. We don't know how it ended," you clearly did not pay attention to episode 6, and that's your problem. Boo boo. Go back
I think
and
I think it's
watch.
also, I actually have a little bit of a theory actually. Okay, so
Ooh.
okay. So people were confused that, like, why does Nija have Chloe Bailey's face? And I was thinking to myself, what if Okay, so if you remember in the true crime episode that, you know, we saw that Marissa had a different face because that was the real version of Marissa in the Swarm universe. And then you have like Chloe Bailey's version, which is like the show inside of a show version. And it kind of makes you
Mhm.
wonder, what if Donald Glover was trying to represent symbolically that, you know, that, how best to put it, that Chloe Bailey was secretly playing Nija the whole time, and that Marissa, didn't really have Chloe Bailey's face, but that was just how Dre had perceived her. And hear me out on this. I, we keep bringing up that, like, if it's anyone else that Dre is obsessed with, is Marissa, aside from Nija, is Marissa. But why would that be? Considering that they shared their connection with Niger throughout childhood. What if Dre like literally saw like Marissa as Niger, because that would be the closest thing that Dre would ever get to like considering like Niger like her best friend. Yeah, I was pretty much saying that like what if Chloe Bailey was secretly playing Niger the whole time and that Chloe Bailey was never truly playing Marissa? Like how best to put, like Dre like perceives Marissa to have Nigel's face, because considering that like Marissa is the only like person that Dre has ever been obsessed with aside Nigel, because of their like bonded like sisterhood like over Nigel when they were kids. Marissa is the closest thing that Dre will ever have like to becoming like Nigel's best friend, if that makes some sort of sense. That like Dre sees Marissa as Nyjah, and that also adds more to her
Um,
delusion. I know the theory seems a little fetched out, but that's how I had perceived it.
I do think that Dre sees Marissa as Niger because she places them pretty much on the same pedestal within her head and her delusions. But I do not believe that Marissa is Niger. I don't think they're one and the same because if they are, then who was that on the posters? Who was that? Because we see posters and pictures and like videos of Niger throughout the
Yeah, you're
show,
right. In the very
not
opening
Marissa.
of the series, we do see a different actress playing Nyjah.
Mhm.
Do you think it can also maybe represent that, considering that Marissa died in the first episode, maybe seeing Marissa as Nyjah was supposed to represent that, that Dre accomplished her mission, and that she got to see Nyjah and meet Nyjah like her and Marissa had dreamed as kids? Well, sort of.
Yeah,
And you're frozen again, duh.
I think so. I agree with that.
Oh, wait, you were frozen again for a second. What'd you say?
Oh, I said I agree with that. There are like so many theories pertaining to those two. How Marissa and Nija like coincide and all that stuff. I don't know. There are a lot of ways you can take it, but at the end of the day, it's we are still seeing everything through Dre's eyes. We're seeing things through Dre's perspective. So we will really never know what is truthful and what's not because she's an unreliable narrator and she's delusional. So
Right.
we don't really know what the what's actually going on. We just have to do the guesswork and use what we
The
have and
ending.
use
Oh,
episode
sorry.
6 and use episode 6 as like our clues. It's like,
Yeah.
there are like these true crime puzzle boxes that I got for Christmas. And basically, you like get a true crime case with like case files and pictures and evidence. And you like have to solve it and like figure out like who did it, what happened, find this and that and that this. That is basically this show. This is like a true crime puzzle box
Right.
because we have evidence, we have a perspective, we have a story. Our perspective in our story comes from an unreliable narrator, but we also have episode 6, which gives the perspective of the detective and her evidence. So we have to like try to fill in the blanks and the
Right.
cracks.
Um, no, I was just thinking. Now that I deeply think about it, I think the ending of Swarm definitely reminds me of you finished Atlanta, right?
No,
Ooh, I don't want to spoil the ending then. Dang it.
it's okay.
Well,
It's okay. You can go ahead.
the ending is also very left up to interpretation. It's very much a Matrix message that throughout the series finale of Atlanta, that Darius, that he it was revealed that like this whole show was a simulation. That Darius was like the only one that could travel and then out of the Matrix, like to warn Ernest and Paperboy, like of the mistakes that they might make, like to correct the future, and he was reliving the same day.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it wasn't the series finale. I was you weren't expecting that at all, huh?
Please, no. I was not expecting
I wish I
that.
could make
That's
this up, friend. It
insane.
was so crazy. I kind of miss that
They're
show.
so unserious. Oh God. But yeah, I mean, that just goes to show that like anything that Donald Glover does, like he can literally do
I
anything.
definitely want to see more shows by Donald Glover and Janine Majors. Like, imagine if they were to put their minds together and work on a show with Jordan Peele, like just one big collaboration. Oh my goodness.
Oh, that'd be so fun. I would want them to make it a horror anthology so bad. I love anthologies. Like anthologies really are my bread and butter. I love them so much. Like I want them to make like a two sentence horror stories style type of show.
Right.
That would be so good. Or like Black Mirror, but like with black people.
I would definitely tune into that. Speaking of Black Mirror, I know that we're supposed to get another season coming out either sometime this year or
We
like
are.
earlier next year. Yeah, I know that they have the cast for some of the episodes. They have Aaron Paul from Breaking Bad, Zazie Beats from Atlanta,
Ooh.
a few other people. It's looking like a nice cast so far.
Mm-hmm. I would tune in. I know. I cannot explain to you enough how much I love anthologies. Even like starting off like the Twilight Zone. Like they're just so good
I've
to
seen
me.
bits and
Just a
pieces of the
different
original
story each
Twilight Zone
episode.
in black and white. I know there's
Mm-hmm.
also the newer
Yeah.
Twilight Zone with Jordan Peele as the host.
Mm-hmm. The host slash narrator.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, like just a new episode. That's like a different story each episode or each season. Like American Horror
Hmm.
Story. American Horror Story has a different story each season, but they're all connected
Right.
some way somehow, which makes it so fun.
I had always, now that you bring that up, friend, I had always theorized that all of Jordan Peele's projects are in some way, some form connected to one another. Like, if you were to tell me, like, in chronological order, like Lovecraft Country happened, then Get Out, then Us, then, the rest, I would almost believe it.
Yeah, I know. I love when things are connected like that. Like it makes it so fun to me because you're like, wait a minute, how is it connected? Like now I gotta do this. Now I gotta solve this mystery.
But like, I really need to say this. Like, shout out to Dominique Fishback. Like, she really held her own on this show. And like, before playing Dre and Swerm, like, I had seen her like in other smaller projects. Like, I don't know if you've heard of a movie on Netflix called Project Power. It has Dominique Fishback and Jamie Foxx. It's that movie where
Um,
Jamie Foxx. I don't was he like a bounty hunter or something? And I remember that like Jamie Foxx and Dominique Fishback that like they take these like medication pills that gives them powers for 5 minutes or 10 minutes or something like that.
I don't think I've seen it. I've never seen her act before. This is like my introduction to
Oh
her,
yeah, she's
but she's been
definitely she's
great.
definitely very talented and has range for like the few like projects that I've seen her in. And then in another movie that I saw her in, which she was pretty good in a supporting role. She played Fred Hampton's wife in Judas and the Black Messiah.
Hmm.
I don't know if you saw that movie where Fred Hampton was played by Daniel Kaluuya and Lakeith Stanfield was also in it. It's on HBO Max.
Probably not.
I mean, I know the movie is
Probably not.
pretty controversial because you know Fred Hampton, he was portrayed by Daniel Kaluuya. That Daniel Kaluuya, he's a British Ugandan actor. And that Fred Hampton was an African American man, and I can see why some people would be upset by that on authenticity. But what can you do, I guess? And honestly, that's honestly an interesting topic for another episode. Like, the dynamic of like British actors from Africa or the Caribbean or whatever, like playing like, African American characters or even African American historical figures.
Yeah, I think that historical figures should be played
Yeah.
to the realest extent possible.
Yeah, for a historical figure, it just only seems right to be played by an African American actor or actress. Like, for example, if they were, oopsie, excuse me, I'm sure you remember back in 2016, who could possibly forget it, when freaking Zoe Saldana did blackface, wore a 4C wig,
Mm-hmm.
and she literally, like, in the makeup department, like, broadened her features because her features are smaller in real life, like, to look like Nina Simone. And not to mention that she's Dominican in real
Yes.
life, even though, like, I know that, like, people are gonna say that, like, oh,
She's Dominican?
yeah, like people are gonna say she's Afro Dominican, and it's like, do y'all not know that she hardly claims her blackness?
Mm, yeah, that was an interesting casting choice. Also, let's not forget the time that they had that Michael Jackson biopic and they put that white man in blackface.
I remember that. That was wow.
Let us remember. Hopefully, this new Michael Jackson biopic with Jafar is makes up for it because oof,
I think it's
that was a hot mess.
no biopic is perfect. There's definitely going to be some improvisation scenes, but I think as far as the performance of Michael Jackson himself, it's probably going to be nailed down by Jafar. Like, who's going to know how to play Michael Jackson better than one of his own family members? And I know some of his brothers are also producing the project. I don't know if Janet Jackson is hands on with the project.
I haven't seen anyone say anything about it,
Yeah.
but I wouldn't be surprised if she's like talking to him about it. But
Oh,
yeah,
friend, that's.
to really make
Oh, sorry. What were you gonna say?
I said to really make a good biopic, it takes a lot, but also takes very little.
Mm,
What'd you say?
no, I was just gonna say. So do you know who Michael K. Williams is? He was in Lovecraft Country and The Wire.
Yeah.
He recently
Hmm?
passed away in 2020. I mean, rest in peace. He
Yeah.
was before his passing. He was scheduled to play DMX in a biopic, and I'm so disappointed we're not going to see that now. I think he would have ate that down.
Yeah, I think so as well. Do you think they're still gonna make the movie?
There's never really been mention of it since after he passed. Like, supposedly, there wasn't even any casting call. Like, they wanted him to play DMX, so maybe they didn't really have too many other people in mind.
Oh.
Yeah, I guess time will tell. And I know that a Whitney Houston biopic came out recently, which I did not watch it. I didn't hear anybody talking about it, so I don't know if that's a sign if it's good or
I
bad.
haven't watched it either.
Hmm.
I
Oh,
haven't
by
seen
the
anyone talk about
oh,
it,
by the
but
way,
I
Frank,
saw
can
the
you
trailer and I wanted to watch it.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, Frank, can you tag me like on your story so I could just repost it?
Yeah. Hold on.
Yeah, it's okay.
Dang it, I forgot. I'll do it. I'll do it once we get out of here. But yeah. Um, God, I don't know. We've talked about so much today. We've
We
gone
really
off topic
did.
on
Like,
many
I
topics.
honestly like that aside from Swerm, we were able to overlap
But
other
you know what?
topics like Jeffrey Dahmer.
It all
Yeah, like
goes
it all could
together.
like we weren't like talking about like
It's
different random stuff.
all
Like it all kind of connected to one another, and I like that honestly. It was a productive conversation.
yeah. If you're listening to this podcast expecting us to talk about the facts and only the facts, you are in the wrong place. We will go off on tangents.
You will definitely get a little sidetracked,
you'd
but it
have to
won't
come to
be a
expect that.
complete sidetrack either.
Yeah, we're not like gonna go from talking about Swarm to like our favorite flavor of ice cream, you know? Unless,
Yeah,
well, I mean, we could
but
because she did a lot of food.
we definitely should do an episode about that one of these days. But anyways, for the next episode, I have a few ideas. We have I know
Ooh,
that Bel Air came out today, so that leaves us with one episode left next week for season 2. There is the season
ooh,
final of Abbott Elementary, which this was a very long season. There's so much to unpack. Um, I remember we also said that we would discuss um, Disney's representation problem, their tokenism problem, their colorism problem. Like,
yeah,
whether if it's the new Lilo and Stitch cast, we could dip our toes in Yarsha Heidi as Tinkerbell and Halle Bailey as Ariel. I think there's so much to talk about with Disney.
for sure. And I mean, to our
Did you have
audience,
any
you
other
know,
ideas
you
to
can
throw out there to
also
give our audience
request
a little bit of
things.
a
You can
tease?
like send in what you wanted to hear us talk about. You can tell us your thoughts on
Yeah,
Swarm as well. We want to hear what everybody thought. We want to hear your theories. Maybe if you like give a
yeah,
good theory, we'll
absolutely.
discuss it on the next episode.
Maybe
But
other
yeah,
TV
we're also
shows or movies you would like us to watch or review, because believe me, we have a long list. Like TJ here just finally got me to watch Everything Everywhere All at Once, which that movie, it was great, but so freaking complicated. That's definitely like 3 episodes within itself.
it was a fever dream, but I love it. It's
The rock
I
scene
love the
really got me.
mhm. Yeah. I know the movie theater when I watched it, everybody was like, "Wow, what's happening here?"
Let me take a look at
It's
our Norton list real
like,
quick. Episode ideas. By the way, friend, when you put horny fish and gay sharks, was that a joke or is that like a legit thing? What is that?
oh, I wanted to name one of our episodes that
Oh,
because
oh, that was just an
I want us to
episode title.
watch. Yeah,
What did you want us to
I
watch?
mean, if you want to, I want us to watch Shark Tales and like review it for like funsies.
The one with
But
Will
if
Smith.
there, yes, um, but there is such a
Yeah,
thing as
we could
horny
definitely
fish
do
and gay sharks because like on
that. We should do a watch
like
party
in
for
real
Shark
life
Tales.
because like back in January, apparently this like a weird story, but back in January, apparently a man was like, yes, apparently like on our live, apparently a man was like out on a boat or in the ocean or something. I don't know, but he saw
Hmm.
a
Um,
walrus
there's.
penis,
Oh, sorry, you can finish.
and apparently they're like 15 inches or something. But he was like, well, now that I've seen this walrus's huge peen, I now have a real appreciation for nature. You know, Mother Nature is for real. This walrus is packing heat. Wow,
Yeah,
nature is wonderful.
I was
Apparently the walrus was,
No, you
touching
first.
itself in the ocean, and the man witnessed it and he was like changed forever. And there's a video, but apparently they like censored the walrus's genitalia. But
Really?
it was a thing. That is a horny aquatic animal. Aquatic animal, yes. So
Hmm.
there are real cases of that.
Yeah. Also, I do have two well, okay, so there's one person that would definitely love to be a guest for our Disney like discussion, just everything Disney. And then there's one of my, well, she's not my friend, she's a mutual. I think she would definitely be interested, like joining, depending on what we talk about. You might or might not have heard of her. Shout out to Sydney Rosant. She has a podcast called Sydney's Safe Space. You could find her on TikTok and YouTube, and I would say she talks about quite a little bit of everything. Honestly, like she mostly talks about like a lot of like social like topic related things. She talks a little bit about like celebrity drama, a little bit about movies. Like she's talking about Love Is Blind right now. I saw on her YouTube
Oh,
channel that she was talking about Bel Air season one. I don't know if she watched Bel Air season two, so I would have to ask her. So yeah,
she can come on our on my Twitter space too,
huh?
where we talk about Love Is
Yeah, for
Blind,
sure. I would definitely
because
need
we're
to
really
message
we're
her.
huh
Yeah,
yeah,
no,
because
same thing.
we're really making progress with
I've
that.
never seen. My mom watches Love
Um,
Is Blind.
yeah, our Twitter spaces are so fun. We're make progress with that. We've like been in contact with some of the castmates. We've like emailed them back and forth, and we're gonna
You know,
introduce some
friend, as
castmates
an
from this season.
idea, considering. Oh, sorry. No, I was just gonna say,
Oh no,
considering I didn't watch Love Is Blind, huh?
I was just gonna say that like we've interviewed a couple cast members from the previous seasons before, so that was
Ooh.
very fun because they were messy, like they were spilling all the tea. It was a fun time. So yeah, we like our spaces are really fun. We love it over there. You go ahead, friend.
No, I was just gonna say that, like, just as an idea, that maybe that, like, you could do like a little takeover episode without me, and like, discuss Love Is Blind with Sydney because I did not watch Love Is Blind. Reality TV for me personally. It's just an idea
We
though.
definitely
You don't
could.
need to do it.
Also, like we're always looking for guests. So if you want to be a guest and you have something interesting to talk about a show that we've seen or a movie that you want to watch together, we can definitely do that. If you want to be a guest, hit us up in the DMs.
Oh,
Our
show
podcast DM, not just like our personal DMs, but like the podcast DM. Make it
yeah,
professional.
professionalism. But anyways, we should end it here, friend. We're about to go over the hour mark. But anyways, until the next time, y'all, we hope that you tune in for these topics that we have in store for y'all. This is TJ and JD signing out.
And before I let you go, I just have to ask, who's your favorite artist?